While my clock shows
Hi,
6.
this is Jeff from Trauma Type, and this is Olga Tangemann. She wrote Personality Type and Art, and she's an expert in the associative model of Socionics. Today, it's going to be a little bit shorter of a interview. So we're just going to do a little quick slide, and we're going to discuss some of her theories. Olga, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit better?
Mhm. Okay, my name is Olga Tangemann, and I'm by profession, I'm a teacher. I was originally a teacher with languages working, and then I studied psychology at Leicester University, and I have got a master's degree in forensic psychology, applied forensic psychology. I worked a little bit with patients who has got head trauma at the hospital, and then I started to study and in-depth socionics, and that's already for a long time. In 2005, I have wrote the concept of associative socionics, associative model or energy information model. It was called also in the shape of butterfly. Sometimes people say butterfly model. Yeah, since that I'm just doing basically typing and typing people, type identification and some recommendations on relationship and so on.
Okay, so you went from forensic, I can't say that word right now. Forensic psychology to socionics. What made you do the jump?
Uh, well, I loved socionics, but I understand that I cannot really study and get work for it. And I loved psychology as well. And I just decided to go with forensic because it was very interesting for me. However, I didn't manage to find the job that was already here when I came to England. I finished university, I was already maybe like 42, 43. It was very difficult to find the work by the profession. And then I started, at some point I dropped the work altogether and started to just to do what I wanted to do, socionics, studying types. And because I was studying very hard, I came to these ideas, to the concept, which I wrote down. And then slowly it got more and more to it, like first typing by music, then by art and so on. And then the book appeared much later.
Yes, her book, as pictured here, is Personality Type and Art. I put links down below if you'd like to order yourself a copy as well. Well, let's go ahead and just start with your type as well. You're an ESI in Socionics. Can you explain that a little bit?
Oh, the type is introvert, ethical introvert. Ethics is my base function, my program function, then sensory. Um, Introverted ethics is about relationship, understanding people, not expressing the emotions, not exactly understanding group dynamics as usually referred to extroverted ethics. So secondary function is sensing of power, we can say it, yeah. Um, and then sensing of power, it's a lot to it, and we can talk about it, we can see later, but mainly it is when you uh, put much of the power to make things go quicker, yeah, rather than to be very careful with things and so on. Then I have got as a vulnerable function or painful function, intuition of possibilities, extroverted intuition, intuition of insight, and then the other function, weak function, my role function is logic, theoretical logic, structural logic. So that's kind of main function of my type.
Okay, very cool. All right, let's go ahead and get into the slides here. Hold on. It is not cooperating. There we go. Okay, so this is in Russian. So what is this exactly? Is this like the stack of the functions?
Yes, the question was, there was a question about model A, isn't it? Oh, actually, overview of Socionics as well. What is Socionics? This is the concept founded by Lithuanian pedagogue and economist Aušra Gustevičiūtė. And she studied Jung, and she studied other prominent figures in psychology field. And she came along Antoni Kampinsky, and she loved that definition which he gave, so that the processes in the psyche are similar to what we have got in the body, metabolism, but he called it informational metabolism. He was a psychopathologist, and he studied also people and so on. And she just loved it, and created a model of like a psychological structure of 16 types. Yeah, we have got 16 models. And then on the basis of these models, she also created the concept of interpersonal relationship, like compatibility, this kind of thing.
Yeah, something I definitely want to talk to you about in the future is compatibility. How does the Socionics compare to MBTI?
How Socionics compared to MBTI? I'm sure there are plenty of articles written about it by different authors, but the major point is that, as you know, extroverts, they coincide with Socionics and MBTI. But for introverts, it's different. What we would call rational introverts, they are described more like irrational introverts, and on opposite. That is because the author of MBTI, she decided somehow that it must be different in introverts, that introverts more show their extroverted function. And she changed it. She basically changed it. If she wouldn't changed it, then we would be pretty much the same, except some other minor details, like we see differently certain functions or aspects of information, we also say in Socionics, like, I don't know, like extroverted ethics is not about expressing the emotion, but it is about expressing the emotions in Socionics. Or, for example, introverted sensing, which is more about memory, memory details and so on in MBTI. And in Socionics, we say that, yes, it is memory for sensory things, like when you go along the street and some kind of nice smell of perfume or something reminded you of somebody, then you can remember something. Or if you look at the picture of a chocolate, somebody eating chocolate, you can very easily remember these sensations, but not exactly the memory in general. So some minor details differ.
Yeah, I don't really agree with the whole introverted backwards flipping the functions like they do in MBTI.
Yeah, I mean, there is no logical explanation to it. She just decided that she see it that way, but we might decide that we don't see it that way. No, that's why.
Yeah, I think her gist of thinking was that she looks for the first extroverted function, just because it's external, and that's how her model's just to type. There wasn't much to it. It's quite basic, and not a big fan of the MBTI itself. All right, we'll move to the next slide. I think we're ready to go there. All right, so these are the functions. I'm sorry.
Actually, if you can go back, because I did not actually explain the other slide. So what is it here? What we see is the model A, which was originally just 4 functions. There was Jung function. Do you remember what was Jung function about? Yeah, like you have got the base function of one weirdness or version. I don't know how to, if you understand me. For example, the base function is extroverted and 3 other functions are introverted. So that was the first function. And from that model, which was originally 4 function, she kind of created 8. They were function, basically they were the same function, but different on extraversion and introversion, so we call it shortly different version. But I don't know, maybe the word weirdness is better, no idea, because another author, Russian author, which has got a book about Socionics, Katerina Filatova, she uses the word weirdness. I don't know what is better in English, actually. Yes, and then in this picture you have got the first presentation. If you can see, the first one is the strongest base. The second one is second in strength, creative. Then we have got third function, which is role function, and fourth function is actually painful and vulnerable, which is the most the least developed, the weakest one. And it goes like with the letter Z, why is that? It's because of the flow of information. That's another very funny subject, very important in the theory, because lots of things are connected to it. But I mean, how can we describe exactly the flow of information? Aushra did it in her theory, and she explained it how like extroverted information becomes introverted from function to another. We will see it later. So, but these two pictures, they show differently, different how the functions laid out. And some people used 1, 2, then 3, 4, and some people at the bottom, they say 1, 2, 3, 4. Just different combination, the same function put in a different layer. That's all what it is. Otherwise, all the same. We can go to another slide.
Okay. All right. Thank you for explaining that. All right. So the functions are represented by shapes, and the white ones are the introverted functions, and the black ones are the extroverted, right?
Yes. These symbols actually were created by Aushra Augustivinchute. So we see here, for example, if you look at the very first left corner, the black circle, it is sensing of power. And then information flows to introverted function logic. Then it goes again to extroverted function intuition of possibilities, and then it finishes at introverted ethics. So it's sensing, logic, intuition, ethics. It just the colors will be different. And the first one at the top, it is a mental part of the model, or conscious part of the model. And Aushra says that conscious part, the functions which are in a mental part, they are better developed because we're using them more, we can talk about them more. And the bottom part, it is also flow of information with the arrows from introverted intuition, this triangle is like a mirror effect, to extroverted ethics, like letter L, then introverted sensing, white circle, to extroverted logic. And basically the flow of information in a mental part and in a vital part, subconscious, they are different, like clockwise, anti-clockwise. And this actually, for Aushra, if you start reading it, her book is not yet translated, which is a shame. But she explained it as a different kind of energies, and it's very interesting. Like she associates certain functions with potential energies and kinetic energies and Yeah, it's all like moments and tacts of field. It is introverting function, and then objects, another tacts of object. It's very complicated, very interesting. We can't go into that. We just go on a surface today.
Okay. So would you like to go to the next slide, or so who is it? What function stack is this? This is SE, and this goes to what? TI or FI?
That's right, TI. That's right.
Okay.
So program, then creative, then in energy goes to role function, extroverted intuition. That's right. And the vulnerable function is introverted ethics. And
So would
this
this
is,
be an ESTP and MBTI then?
it will be, yeah, ESTP. That's right. Yes,
Okay, and that is a SLE, right? And Socionics, SLE.
that's right.
Okay.
Sensory, logical, extrovert. We have got another name, Zhukov. You actually had questions about it, why we have got so many different names.
Yeah, they're named after people. They're named after the MBTI, but the introverted types are they're what they're supposed to be, the perceiving, and extroverted off their first function, and they got the SLI and stuff like that. Why is there so many names?
Well, I think in MBTI you also have got the name by the role function, yeah. Like this is like administrator, and this is romantic, and this and that. So it's more like, yeah, what people do, what their advantages and so on. But another names which Aushra gave is of famous people, and there was a huge kind of argument going a few years ago. There are some people who for it to keep these names, analogies or pseudonyms, which Ausha created, and some people were against it. They said, oh, that's not scientific, to call types like Zhukov or Napoleon, and so on and so on. But I'm personally for it. I would like them to keep, because it's easy when you learn typing and types. You have got already some example which you can look at it, yeah, like a presentation, especially for ethical types who understand better people. If you just present something like sensory, logical, extra, say what is that. But if you say, oh, that is Napoleon, like Zelensky is Napoleon, and they say, oh yeah, okay, I know another one guy, yeah, around the road, he looks exactly like that, he acts exactly like that and talk like that. So that is for easy way to understand. But she did give name not only for like famous people who were living, like Balzac. There are pictures of him, there are uh, some letters about him, information about him, but also like Don Quixote, for example. Yeah, so some heroes from the literature. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that is also interesting, because this Socionics, actually typology, it allows people to type anyone, to type people from the book, to type from the cartoons, and so on and so on. It's just, it goes wild, and in a way it's good. It gives people something to think about. Yeah.
All right, we got a question here. We got a comment from Ani Rex. He commented, Americans like the English don't like introspection. Introvert was seen as a mental disorder at one point. Yeah, pretty much. And we are kind of shamed for being introverted still in the U.S. in Western culture altogether.
And
Oni
maybe
Rex also. I'm
maybe
sorry.
just was the fashion, maybe just was the fashion, we don't see anything wrong with anything, isn't it?
Yeah, and yeah, so ethical types know people better, which means intuitive feelers type better. Nice.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't.
intuitive.
It doesn't make grammatical sense exactly.
Yeah,
We'll move.
maybe rephrase.
Yeah, maybe you could type in Russian. Maybe you can understand it. If I'm assuming he's Russian or somewhere of that scent. All right, you ready for the next slide? Or
Yes, yes, go on.
all right. So here we got the chakras and the colors and even like
Yeah.
their astrology symbols.
Yeah, this question was a little bit further down about how functions associated, because I associate function or aspects of information with colors, and it is also connected, associated with system of chakra. How did it happen? First of all, I associated colors with, because we have got 8 colors, or sorry, 8 functions. Where do we have 8 colors? We have got it in a rainbow, right?
Mm.
So beautifully we have got the all colors. But then just to say, okay, I associate it with a rainbow, yeah. So it's not solid. And I thought, okay, who else, associated colors with energy? And then I came, of course, obviously, chakra system. It was a little bit tricky because I was thinking a lot about introverted function. And at the end, it came like red color. It was obviously emotion, yeah, ethics of emotion, extroverted ethics. Then it was orange. We go like in circle, yeah, so they have to be close. That was extroverted logic. Then it's all extroverted functions. They are very bright, isn't it? And then it goes to yellow, extroverted sensing, associated with the sun and so on. Expansion of power in giving life. Then we have got green. It is intuition of possibilities. We imagine immediately the tree with all that little leaves, possibilities. They come and go. And the same like life of people, we come and go, but the life is continuing, the tree of life. So, and it is a chakra anahata, and also here is pink color as well. No, pink, lovely, ethics. Ethics, introverted ethics, that's how it starts. And then we go into introverted function. And then we go for, sorry, I can't see exactly, it is Ajna, what is it? So basically, purple color is for introverted sensing. Turquoise color is for introverted intuition. Why introverted sensing is a depth? Because it is the bottom of the sea. Yeah, peace, quiet, nothing moves, very deep relaxation state. Then introverted intuition, you can say, oh, that's kind of the same. People get into their imagination. But somehow I thought it is a throat chakra is about expression. And I thought, well, it could be that. It could be that, but I was thinking hard about what to wear. Is it like introverted sensing to purple, or on the opposite introverted intuition? But with the last one, purple, there was no question. Of course, it was introverted logic. That's without any question. It's almost like spiritual function. Also, people who are with this function as a base, they might not necessarily believe in God, but that's how it is. And why is that? Because the truth, logic, when we actually logically thinking, we come to understand the truth, and what God is the truth. So it's kind of that's why. Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Ani Rex kind of elaborated. The way she explained it, there's a crackling. I don't know if that's your end or mine. Gave rise the impression that intuitive feelers would be naturally better at typing people since ethical types know people better. So introverted. Okay. And he also commented, wouldn't intuition be the third eye?
The third eye. Yes, that is a difficult question, isn't it? Because the third eye, is ajna, which I said is introverted sensing. You know what? It's just I wanted to go by the circle, and that's how I did it. So that there is this order, lovely, beautiful order. These functions are very, very, how to say it, close to each other in the meaning. So possible.
Yeah, that's something I want to talk to you about too, but I don't know if we, for the sake of time, I guess we have to move on about NI and SI. They seem a lot of similarities in your book, and any other theories are pretty much the exact opposites. I don't know if that crackling is me or you. Do you hear that
I'm not.
crackling?
I heard a little bit crackling, but I'm not sure what it is.
Okay, well, we'll just bear through it. Are you done with this slide, or would you like to move on?
We shall move on. We still
Okay.
have got a few questions.
So this is the EIE. What is the ENFJ in MBTI? And this is kind of the butterfly model with Socionics A, model A, or the associative model. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on this?
Yes, that was your question was is like what is model A and associative model if it is the same or not. Yeah, and I wanted to have a look of this picture. So basically this is model A, yeah, um, uh, represented as associative model, static representation of associative model because what is associative model in general? It is distribution, the distribution um, uh, of psychic energy in the type. We have got 4 psychic types of energy, and when we type people, we say, okay, your main energy like ego, and second superego, and then neutral is superid, and the least developed is it. Yeah, and that is the model. But the butterfly shows model A as application to associative theory just because it is easier in my eyes. It was easier present the functions of the model A like this. It doesn't change anything in particular about model A. It's just easier to look at because you can see at the top you have got 2 blocks which are the strongest in the model A. To the left we have seen ego block, and to the right we have got it block. And at the bottom we have got to the left we see superego block, and to the right superid block. Left side it is mental part of the model A, conscious, better developed, and to the right we have got subconscious vital part of model A. And as you can see, the strongest is the high top wing ego block, and the weakest is the link, the block to the left, yeah, this one, superid block. So, and here we see how the functions are distributed. We can have these model functions, models for each type. This is a type Hamlet. And base function is extroverted ethics, secondary creative function, introverted intuition, then energy flows to role function, to orange color, extroverted logic, and vulnerable function is sensing, introverted sensing. It is this color, yes. So that's model A. You see, it is the functions corresponding. I call it channels. If you look, the first channel is ethics, extroverted to the left, introverted to the right. Second channel is intuition, then channel, vulnerable channel of sensing, and role channel is logic. Yeah.
So this in MBTI, this would be the first function. Then it goes the second function. Then down here's the third. Then here's the inferior, the fourth function.
Okay. Yes.
Is that what that means?
Yes, because inferior in MBTI is the weakest, isn't it? Inferior.
In MBTI, yes, but in other models, which I go by, not exactly. So you put like just so people know at home, there is a lot of Freudian terms in here too. He had three sides of the mind: the ego, the id, and the super ego. And you added the super id to this, right? Or is that something Socionics added?
Socionics added it was original model by Ausra. Actually, there was different kind of slightly different model, but the last model which we are using all socionists was created not by Ausra but by socionist. I think Nikolai Medvedev, I think his name, and Ausra did not accept it straight away, but then when she thought, she accepted, and that is the model. But he called it model A for her Hona, model Ausra. So that's what we are using. And she originally created Superit, yes. Yes. But she doesn't explain in her book. You will not find any particular links to Freud, like why she named the blocks of model A that way, like Freud. She doesn't explain it. But there is one article I have read when she said that about Freud and Jung. She said it is like our teachers. Both are very big, and that's why she said that Socionics is born out of the concepts of both of these people.
Okay. Very
Psychologists.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. You done with the slide, or would you like to move on?
Yeah, we can move on your slides.
Okay. So these are the. Is this associating with Beebe's model, John Beebe, like the TP Eagle associated model compared to the hero archetype, choleric temperament, and the fast minor key music? So what is this slide exactly?
Okay. What it is? I don't think it is Bieber. I think it is archetypes by Jung. I just
Mm-hmm.
explain this slide I have chosen because you asked about music, how can be typed by music and so on. So there was a person, musician. He studied. He worked in some sort of musical institute. Valentin Petrushin, and we socialized, and he created. He made these associations of some archetypes, Jung archetypes, and the music types of music. Like he said, like hero archetype is associated with choleric temperament and fast minor key music, march, and so on and so on. But what I understood that energy types are associated with what he found with archetype, a hero, and so on. And in this slide, I simply show how energy types are associated with music, with types of music. Yeah. For example, Superit is introverted energy type, irrational, dynamic, and associated with archetype mother, melancholic temperament, and slow minor key music. Yes. No, for people who understands music, and they can make sense of it.
Okay, and just for the people at home, it must be my end. It's crackling when I talk. Hopefully, it's not
Yeah.
interfering too bad. I don't know. I have a brand new mic. I don't know why it's doing it. Anyways, for people at home, Jung talked about the rational and irrational types. The rational types are pretty much what the judging types are in MBTI, and the irrational types are the perceiving types in MBTI. Just so people know that as well. All right. Anything else you'd like to talk about on this slide?
Um, no, it's just for people who associative socionics, my theory, yeah, it's kind of widens up the borders of socionics, because socionics originally is about information metabolism, and all these 8 functions, they are also called information aspect, and they supposed to cover all possible information. That means it can be applied to anything, yeah. So, and I just show how it can be applied to typing music, to understand the type by preferences in music, and how to understand the type by preferences in art. But what is interesting is that when you go that route, you can describe almost any object around you. You can see it in a way of, in a sense of typology. At least something you can say about it. That's how it goes.
Okay, so you can type by music preference. So what would a ILI listen to, or an INTJ and MBTI?
Well, as I said, for example, you take the type INTJ. Yeah, in Socionics, it is a rational type, and rational types they prefer rational music. What does it mean, rational music? Rational music, it is something which you can understand, which falls into sort of traditional type, or like, I don't know, like chorus, then normal whatever music, then chorus. You can understand that. Yeah, irrational type of music, then sounds change or sounds come almost unexpectedly. It can be very complex. What are the criteria for the music to be not quite normal, not quite rational, but interesting and original for perceiving type? For example, the speed. If it is a normal speed, okay, it is rational. But if the speed is too fast or too slow, that is irrational. Yeah. So INTJ, obviously rational music, then introverted music, it is low in sound. I mean, yes, sort of peaceful, not too loud. What else? And static music, it is like dancing on a spot. Yeah, it doesn't go like from very quiet to very strong in sense, in this sort of things. Not very high contrasts, not huge contrast in the sound of music, for example, or in the speed and so on.
I know, like myself and a lot of INTJs, they listen to like a lot of metal, like heavy metal, death metal, which is real fast. Like you were saying, it's not rational, I guess. It's usually fast and heavy, but it's not quiet and calm.
Yes, all what I'm saying to this is, of course, when we type by the person by such criteria like music or art, we expect that on some criteria you might not fall to the right type. Yeah, that happens. But the majority of the criteria results, they still should show the preference for INTJ, for being rational, being static, and so on. But again, we don't know if we say that INTJ in MBTI it is INTP. That creates a little bit of confusion, because irrational types, yes, they do listen exactly to this heavy metal and a little bit irrational music, because they are irrational, because they're dynamic, because they like these changes in music. So
Okay. All right, thank you. Would you like to move on?
Yep.
All right, here we go. This is this descriptions of types of psychic energy in music, and I'll let you kind of explain this a little better.
Yes, in the book or even on my website, there is information in more detail, but I saw that I need some kind of underline, something quick definition and easy to understand. So we shall see the type of energy ego in music corresponds to a strong, purposeful and controlled flow of energy, which correlates with signs of extraversion, rationality, and dynamicity. Being dynamic, basically. Yes, it is like strong power goes into one direction, very controlled. It is a matching, like for example, it is a match. Yeah, very clear and strong and into one direction. It should be powerful music, and so on. And because of the also subtype theory, it can happen that the type is introverted, but likes sometimes to listen to more extroverted music. That's also possible. Then type of it corresponds to also strong and sound music, but less controllable, uncontrollable, and multi-directional flow of energy, which is associated with extraversion, irrationality, and statics. Well, for example, it is when you listen to the music, it can be loud and strong, but at the same time, it's always changing, always something changing. The same melody, but changing in instruments, in the sounds, and so on and so on. So a little bit unusual. And superego music is introverted, weak in sound, purposeful, controlled flow. So the most traditional music maybe. And superit in music corresponds to weak, multi-directional, and uncontrollable flow of energy, which correlates. It may be sense. It may not make sense now, but if you study it, you kind of understand more what it is about.
Very cool. Just want to show a comment from Ani Rex. He says he finds metal music relaxing and helps me tune everything else out. Yeah, I can kind of relate to that. A lot of people say they listen to metal when they clean and stuff like that.
Yes. I mean, in particularly, if you look for the types like Balzac, it is INTP. It is a rational type for us, for Socionics. Yes, they like that. People emotionally very, how to say it, concealed, don't express the emotion, but they do like this music because it allows them exactly to express themselves when they listen to it, recharge or whatever. That can happen.
All right, very cool. Would you like to move on?
Yes, please.
All right, I think this is the final slide. I don't know what this means exactly. Could you go ahead and explain this?
Yes, when I talked about that Socionics describes the whole information, the whole all information aspects cover all information that we have. Then what it is that I had a student, and he said he learned associative socionics, and he created by himself symbols which represent these 4 types of energy, and that's why I wanted to show you. For example, orange and red represent ego type, energy type, because orange is associated with extroverted logics and red with extroverted ethics. And as you see, the form is symmetrical. It's kind of orderly, I don't know, Then to the right, we have got energy of it. It is extroverted. We see strong colors, extroverted colors. Then it is irrational. Well, we can't understand exactly what it is. It's a little bit unusual. Looks like the eye, but then it is static. It is a static colors and static form. And at the bottom, we see introverted types of energy. To the left, we see irrational and dynamic. It's like moving a little bit. It's dark colors, and it is irrational, some sort of monster, we don't know. And to the right, we have got also introverted colors, but orderly, rational, understandable, and static, not moving.
Yes,
But when I talked about ego, I forgot to say about dynamics. All these, shapes, they kind of create illusion of movement.
Okay, and just one thing too that people might be confused about at home. Static means that it stays still, and dynamic is like it changes, right?
Yes, especially intuition of time or of doubt, I call it as well. Yes, responsible for imagination and speed and changes in time and so on. That's right. But again, if you talk about music, how can you differentiate? We talked about it, statics and dynamics, because music is music. It's not standing. But if it is on a spot, if it is repeating, repeating the same sound, that is static. If it is goes quite, then we have got eruption of very strong and loud sound, that is dynamic. Or dynamic can be cacophony, like all different sounds also can create a dynamic.
Yeah, sure. All right. I think that was the last slide. You wanted to go 30 minutes, but we went 45, and it was a lot of explanation here. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, I would say we will better finish now.
Okay. All right. You can find her book, Personality, Type, and Art. It's listed down in the description below. She also has a couple Facebook groups. One is hers, and one's a different Socionic Model A, as well as her website. You can find her as well. Like I said before, I sent out a video last night that there's going to be a slowdown on my channel. I'm having some issues at work and some technology issues, and I'm sorry for the audio quality. I'm hearing a lot of crackling. I apologize about that. Thank you, Ani Rex and Mamu, for joining. Everybody, have a good day.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
All right.